Well, okay then, this is not going to be the most focused talk or video that I've done, but nonetheless I felt necessary to clear up certain things and take a break from my usual activities because of, well, I don't want to get into it too much here because for, oh God, 25 years, I don't know, I felt it necessary in some ways to obfuscate the details in my life and the activities I was doing and not doing because I didn't want to be categorized. I didn't want to be, pigeonholed, committed to some role that was unfree in some way. It wasn't conducive to, in Socrates' words, the examined life. You know, the life of both action and contemplation. You know, I felt it necessary to be able to maintain those conditions. You see, whereas if I wasn't active enough in in terms of being a man, then I had to go out and do these things, practice these things, that increased my sense of capability. But I realised that despite the limited time we have here on earth as individuals, with all these lines, these domains to actualize in, for example, the intelligence line or the morality line or the aesthetics line, you know, that I had to develop myself simultaneously in in many spheres. So it was therefore a disadvantage to me, to my quest, to my mission, to be categorized or identified as this or that. So in a way, I stopped caring early on about gender identifications and whether I should do this as a man, what I should be capable of as a man, because that's what people expected of a man. And they weren't just gender conditioned or feminist um, ideas that were instilled in the collective consciousness. It was rather that I didn't want to be limited or conditioned by these people, whether they were man or woman. So I ceased, therefore, to give the matter much importance because when I left university, I more or less went my own way. So in that sense, you could say I was a MGTOW without ever knowing what the word meant. I didn't know what the word meant. I had no idea who these people were until like 3 weeks ago. So how did I get caught up in all this? Well, it just came to my attention that there was a lot of weird things in society that was happening. Like, for example, the this whole crazy transgender thing going on, where people who want to dress up in women's clothes, more power to them, let them do what they want. What the hell, whatever. But then they're coming around and saying, as a child I can do that. I can decide as a child. Well, why should I be concerned about this stuff? Well, let me just, hear me out, and you know, maybe we'll get to the bottom of it here because I've never seen myself as an individual that was completely independent of society, government, the establishment, ideas, even feminism and all that stuff. But at the same time, you know what I mean? I might go off for 4 months, you won't know, what I'm doing, where I am. And then suddenly I'm complaining about all this stuff. What the hell's going on here? Because all of this stuff is suddenly being brought to my attention. All this postmodern, valueless, all these cultural memes and all of the stuff that I've been reading about and talking about in the past, that I'm dealing with them. I've never seen myself as an individual that was separate from anything, even society, because I recognize, like, all these cultural means, everything's been set in place in some way to break down categorizations of gender and sex and all of that. Why then do I not think that it's a good thing? Well, every action has unforeseen consequences, right? You don't know what's going to happen because it's like an infinite chess game. You don't know how. If you drop a substance in the ocean, you don't know what the effects are as it permeates throughout that body of water, that infinite body of water. It's just like something like that. All these unforeseen consequences as a result of the gender wars. These, well, what I see, it's just my job. It's just it's just part of my introspection, the way that I analyze and think about things, that I should examine all of this stuff. It doesn't even matter if I come to any conclusion about it. Is that I will be exploring it and I will be examining it because I want to find out. I'm fascinated by everybody's opinions and what they think about the subject, even if they disagree with me. But at the same time, from a whole cosmic sense scale, whatever you want to, whichever way you want to dress up the whole equation, whatever you want to call it, bigger picture, the Tao or God or whatever. There are certain terms that I prefer to use that I don't like. You know what I mean? Doesn't mean I'm an atheist. See, you can't categorize me as an atheist or a God man or a spiritual person or a profane person. But you see that I have some understanding of these spaces, but I've never said any of them were, absolute. You know what I mean? Because I didn't want to be categorized. I couldn't be categorized as this or that. You know what I mean? Because I saw a limitation in that in some way, and yet I've used these terms interchangeably, right? So let's just strip away all the identifications and what's left. You know what I mean? You're in now consciousness, something is happening. Something is happening in the totality sphere. You've got to. That's why I'm saying you have to have all lines hooked up, as it were. You've got to have all. You've got to work on the spirit body. Which is the appreciation of yourself as an energetic being. And then we're into the some genderless. There are some good things about genderless ideas then, because it doesn't matter therefore whether you're a man or a woman, because you're considering yourself as a great cosmic being that's beyond man or woman. Yeah, if you're a god, in a sense, you're beyond being a man or a woman. You're something greater than that. Like if you have a great vision of well, a luminous being that's made of light or diamonds or something like that, and you think it's transcendental vision, and you think that you're seeing God or you're seeing like Buddha or Jesus or something like that. Well, you are seeing something of great profundity and splendor, because that being is not merely masculine, and he's not merely feminine, and he can't be categorized, or it can't be categorized as this or that, something or the other. And we get into this kind of objectless range of sensory and extrasensory perception of normal and supernormal capabilities. You know what I mean? And all of this is happening without the the tonal and its politically correct social codes. Like we're moving into a space which is uh, more elevated than that, which is more metaphysically sophisticated than that. So, in a sense, you could say that postmoderns triumphed then over the exclusively masculine defined patriarchal model that was in place, that's been in place since, you know, great empires and kingdoms came to be established on Earth. Okay? So, and even then, you know, women were playing their roles, and some were, you know, indeed devious and manipulative and wanted power and wanted, you know, and exhibited extreme narcissistic tendencies, like the woman, the one that married that sultan uh, in the in the beginning of the Ottoman Empire. I think it was Suleiman the Magnificent, and she married him, and then all the other women in the harem became jealous, and they all started plotting against each other. And she was killing off women, and he was killing off men. They were all killing off each other, you know, to in the interests and ideals of meritorious aristocracy in that sense. But a man or an individual now in the 21st century has got to see, well, now we've seen 1,000 years of that, you know? We've seen 1,000 years of that. We've seen its pitfalls. We've seen its limitations. And we refuse to define ourselves, therefore, as white knights or kings anymore, you know? We want something different. You know what I mean? We are going after spiritual things now, you know? We want to become saints and sages and mystics, poets and writers and artists. And so the men who were traditionally perhaps more ignored in terms of being of social status in the past are now claiming their ground and saying, "What about us? You know, can't I also be great?" You know, with that sort of beta smile. So, you know, I think that it's important now that a man should have not only alpha qualities and do manly things like rock climbing and surfing and hunting and bodybuilding and abseiling and kites, you know, whatever it is that a man does, gardening, whatever it is that makes him feel more like a man, I think he should continue to do these things. But I don't think that he should stop his evolution into developing. Well, I don't even like to call them more feminine qualities, but you could call them that. But the trouble is when you call things like that, like flower arranging, you know, like would a man be flower arranger or sort of thing? Like, well, the samurai were flower arrangers that would be considered like kind of feminine for a man to arrange flowers for a living. You know, would be the most seductive and proposition, you know, for most women, I would think. But then again, yeah, where was I going? So, from a cosmic sense, I can see, you know, there are many things that are happening. I'm not white knighting, and I'm not trying to appeal to the feminists. You know what I mean? I can understand why they came about because of the pathological aspects of male patriarchy. There's a lot of women, you know, thinking, well, I can have a better life than that, and they're right. Why should they, you know, put up with being slaves and being beat up and treated less than dogs? But that's no human being should accept that treatment. You know what I mean? No human being. So in that sense, the transvestites and gay people and all these other people that are different from the norm, and even some freaky people and all kinds of weirdos are coming out the closet now and they're saying, well, yeah, what about me? Well, I should be free. I should have rights because they're all human, right? Like all animals, have a sense of dignity and 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 agency, purpose. We want to reclaim that. So this is what's happening with postmodernism. This explosion of new means, new information, new ideas, and we're struggling to get to grips with it all. It's all double Dutch, triple Dutch, quadruple Dutch, and so on. It's like an infinite chess game. And I think this is where a lot of guys now, especially, and I'm speaking for guys at this point, are very confused because all they don't know how to be around a woman. They don't know, how to be more successful in their careers, or you know what I mean. I could offer advice on how to do these things better, but then I would always say to you, why are you following this path? Have you thought it through? Have you considered it as a philosopher would consider it? Because these men in ancient Greece, in Egypt, and well, maybe not so much in Egypt, but in ancient Greece, in Rome, were considered the highest of men, even more than the artists and scribes and people like that. The scholars were considered noble, but they're not considered noble today because this postmodern environment has homogenized everything and everybody. And I'm saying it's not necessarily good. Some good has come of it. There's been some liberation, but it's going to take some time before all the bits and bobs are sorted out. And never have we existed in a climate that is so confusing. And you've got the positive thinking crowd over here, and you've got the left wing critics over here, the complaining types, if you like, but and you've got the non-judgmental spiritual types on one hand that say that you shouldn't judge anything. It's like this postmodern thinking has unconsciously hijacked their brains, and they're suddenly saying, well, we shouldn't judge anything because to judge is to condemn, and it makes one feel bad. Well, we do have a point. It does feel bad to be judging all the time, but at the same time, that doesn't mean there aren't situations and contexts where judgment does not apply. And you have to exercise discriminating wisdom. There's a place for wisdom, which seems to have been forgotten because you can't, by the postmodernists, because they try to equalize everything. You can't equalize something like wisdom. It's a virtue. You've got to develop. It's developed through life experience, and imperience. Like the experience of the inner self. That man has to cultivate a climate in which his inner self can prosper, and it can't prosper in such limited conditions and identifications, right? It has to evolve in a climate of expansion, of consciousness, and that's why time is our most precious resource. So we've got to develop ourselves in all these lines. It's no good just to be valueless and say some things aren't better than others and some things aren't good. Get into the whole non-judgment thing. The whole non-judgment thing only takes you so far, but you do have to exercise your discriminating wisdom because some things work against you. If your own thoughts work against you, if your own actions work against you, right? What's going to happen? You're going to lose energy. You're going to lose power. You're going to lose effectiveness. You're going to feel like a loser. See what I'm saying? Like you can be the president of the United States and feel like a total loser. Something, a deal could have gone wrong that day. The whole world is let down by your bad decision. You feel like a total loser, like the biggest loser on earth. You know, he 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 who has the most and it all falls, kingdom collapses in one day. That man has lost more. He thinks of himself a loser, even though he's the king of the whole world, right? President of the United States, and he's a total jerk, right? So, what's going to happen to you? It's how you think about yourself, how you construct yourself. You construct yourself the way that's best for you, right? You want to construct virtues that make you strong and powerful. You go beyond this just man and woman nonsense. Do it because it's best for you as a being, as an energetic being, and develop both manly and um, and feminine qualities. Actually, I don't even like to use that word. Like just cultivate the yin and the yang. That's what I'm talking about. You want to call it feminine. I don't like because then the feminists hijack all that and they try to turn you into some kind of postmodern clone, which that I'm just not going to let happen. So I'm not going to let it happen to me. So that's why I choose not to become part of that paradigm and that narrative, because I say that a person should create their own narrative, and we should go beyond this meaningless drivel. Thank you. That's all I've got to say for today.